Guys, today we're going over the Buddy Warlock build, aka the Getaway Artist build. This build is going to do all of the killing for us to the point where we won't even need to shoot any of our guns. It'll make any content easy, it'll make Grandmaster Nightfalls super easy, and it certainly made the contest Equilibrium dungeon easy for me. If you're new here, welcome to the family, and if you've been here, welcome home. Let's jump in. So let's talk about the Buddy build. This build is going to be utilizing the Prismatic Warlock kit to create ability buddies to help kill enemies and pump out noticeable damage. The buddies in question are going to be our enhanced Arc Souls thanks to Getaway Artist and Helios from our Fragment. You can swap out Helios for Bleak Watcher, but trust me, Helios is going to give you a ton more value and it also scales with our grenade stat. Now, what does Getaway Artist do? For those who don't know, Getaway Artist is going to allow us to convert our arc grenades into an enhanced arc soul that's going to amplify us, as well as jolt enemies and stun overload champions. Alright, first we're going to be going over our subclass and how we'll be building it. Your super is interchangeable. I swap from Song of Flame to Needlestorm depending on what I'm doing. Song of Flame gives me that extra damage reduction if I find myself in a situation where I'm taking a ton of damage and I don't want to die. In most in-game content where our tokens are limited or sometimes we cannot be rezzed at all, that damage reduction comes in clutch. The Needlestorm is great for DPS checks like we saw in the contest dungeon, but if we find ourselves not needing that extra damage, Song of Flame is my go-to choice here. Healing Rift for the extra survivability should you need it, but you can opt in for Empowering Rift. Most of the content that I run, most of the time I'm moving around a lot, so the quick heals are better, but if I'm defending or if I'm sitting down in place for a while, I definitely won't mind the Empowering Rift and the benefits that I'll get from it. We're going to be running Arcane Needle, and we'll get into why in a moment, and obviously Arc Grenade since that's how we're going to be activating Getaway Artists. For our aspects, we'll be running Feed the Void. Any kills that we get with any ability will proc Devour, which will heal and restore our grenade energy faster. And our second aspect will be Helion, and since it scales off of our grenade stat, it will be indirectly buffed by our grenade stat being so high. Anytime we activate our class ability, we'll create a solar buddy that'll scorch and ignite enemies. Keep in mind that again, it is scaled with our grenade stat, so the higher the grenade stat, the better. For our fragments, we're going to be running Faucet of Hope. Any elemental buff that we have will allow our rifts to charge more quickly. Now this is important because we're going to be using our rifts to create our solar buddies, which will tie into how we'll loop our build, so we always have our abilities up, which means we'll always have Devour up, which will always mean that we'll be healed and have our grenades charging super fast. Next will be Dominance. Our Void grenades weaken enemies and our Arc grenades jolt. Our Arcs will be able to jolt enemies and stun overload champions, which is a huge plus. And for those who don't know, if an enemy is afflicted with jolt, they will take increased damage and chain lightning to nearby enemies. Faucet of Courage will buff our arc and solar abilities by dealing darkness damage to an enemy. So let's talk about that real quick. Let's understand what that means. We're running Arcane Needles to activate Faucet of Courage. The reasoning for this is that we'll have 3 charges of Arcane Needle, so there's 3 separate instances where we can apply this debuff to a target to get that increased damage. It's simple. And Faucet of Ruin is going to buff our solar buddy. Ruin will increase the area of effect of our solar ignitions. So again, using our arcane needles to debuff our enemies so the Arc Soul and the Helion do increased damage is another reason why this build works so well. Now, once Helion applies enough scorch, the target will ignite, and that being able to spread to other enemies allows everything to be shredded more quickly. Now I know what you're thinking, what weapons do we have to run to really make this work? That's the good thing. This is an ability based build, so weapons truly don't matter. You're gonna run whatever you want, and whatever loadout you feel is gonna help you get through the activity is what you're gonna run. For the contest dungeon that I did, I was running Mint Apex Finality. For those who don't know, Mint Retrograde is the rocket pulse that was introduced last season that is now unfortunately vaulted until they bring it back. Yearside Apex is the SMG from the event that we had a while back, and Finality is Augers from Sonder Doctrine. But you can also run Antidate, which is the exotic submachine gun from Desert Perpetual, or you can run any SMG that you feel is comfortable for you, or maybe you don't want to run an SMG, run a different weapon. Eventually, I do run double rocket pulse with Finality's Auger so we can get through a damage check. So like I said, the weapons really don't matter. You can run whatever you want. I end up running the Praxic Blade, which was introduced this season, or the lightsaber. I end up running that through several different activities with a rocket pulse or a submachine gun, with another eager edge sword just to zip around the map super fast. So loadouts for weapon really don't matter. Run what you're comfortable with, experiment with different guns you might want. The abilities are really going to carry you through everything else. For our mods and stats, let's start with our helmet. We're going to be running 2 ashes to assets and a harmonic siphon. Keep in mind, harmonic siphon will match whatever rapid elemental final blows to create orbs based on your subclass. If you decide to run Nova or Needle or any other super, make sure to update the spots to match whatever weapon you'll be using as your primary. Our gauntlets are going to have 2 bolstering detonations and firepower. Our chest piece will have 2 elemental resistance mods. Again, whatever activity you're running, if it's predominantly strand and stasis, you might want to run a strand or stasis resistance mod. Now, with the 2 elemental resistance mods I have on, depending on the group of enemies, I'm also running a solar ammo generation mod for whatever I may be using as DPS or in general. This just helps build your ammo economy. And our boots will have 2 solar surges and recuperation. Now, the reason that I run 2 solar surges is because Finality Augur was my DPS weapon, so I just wanted to make sure that I had the buff. In some cases, you might opt in to remove a stat mod so you could run 3 surges. I do end up running 2 strand and a solar because I was using Mint Retrograde and Finality's Augur for DPS, but you might opt in for 3 solar surges or however you may. That's interchangeable, so see what you want to do for your loadout and change your mods as such. For our class item, we will have Powerful Attraction and Time Dilation paired with Reaper. Now, for our stat distribution, we are focusing grenade stat. I have my grenade at 140 and it feels pretty nice. At some point, I do end up opting in for grenade fonts later in my contest dungeon clear, just because it helps my Arc Souls, helps my Helion, and Needlestorm was scaling with my grenade stat because it does make a ton of threadlings. So that was a nice bonus to have. Everything else is at 80. If I could make it 100, I did. But most notably, you want your super at about 80. For those who don't know, 70 is comparable to 100 of the old system that we had. If you're not familiar with the old power system that we had and stat system that we had, you don't need to necessarily worry about it. Just for my vets who've been around, that's what it's comparable to. So you'll see that my stats are hanging around 70 to 90. I do have 80 class and I do have 99 weapon. If I could make it 100, again, I would. Alright, now that we have the build laid out, let's talk about how we'll be using it and what the loops look like. You're going to want to start off by consuming your grenade to make your enhanced Arc Soul and follow it up with a Rift so you can make your Helion. You're going to start killing enemies, and as you get your ability kills, you'll proc Devour. So any kills you're going to get at this point are going to heal you and increase the grenade regen, which is going to help you build your grenade back faster. You're occasionally going to run into a tankier enemy, and that's alright. That's when you're going to want to throw your Arcane Needle at them, because remember, any enemy afflicted by a darkness debuff will take increased damage from any light based ability, which our Arc Soul and Helion are. You're going to have a timer for your Arc Soul on the left side of the screen. As it gets lower, you're going to have another grenade at this point, and that's when you're going to want to consume it, and it'll refresh your timer, and drop another Rift if you can. If you don't have your Rift, that's okay. Eventually you will get it back, and it shouldn't be too far off of your grenade. As you get more kills, debuff more targets with Arcane Needle, you'll get into this loop of always having your abilities. Your Transcendence meter will also be filling up quickly, so don't be afraid to use it. Again, you do get damage reduction in Transcendence, and the grenade in Transcendence is actually really good, so don't be afraid to use it if you don't want to pop your super. Speaking of super, you will also be building your super back quickly with this build. I like to use Song of Flame, like I said, to secure my reses or get that extra damage reduction in different types of content. Again, your super is interchangeable. If you wanted to run your stasis super, you couldn't, because you are able to lock down zones and crowd control super well with it. But Song of Flame is my go-to, one because it buffs my allies, and it also gives me a ton of damage reduction that helps me out in in-game content. And that's the buddy build explained and made simple. You can double down using Bleak Watcher and Helion if you really want to live that puppeteer fantasy, but I found these combination of fragments and aspects is what worked best for me in Grandmaster Nightfalls, and most recently the Contest Dungeon Equilibrium. Let me know what you like, don't like, and what you would change. I'd love to know. And if you enjoyed today's build, consider liking, commenting, and subscribing so you don't miss more builds and other content that I have planned, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.